And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Capital City Through Time. Well, more like just building a city, and as time goes by, you get better technology, I suppose. This is a city building game in which you're going to be taking tiles that are this size here and building a city in front of you. Other players are building one also, and watching different tracks, watching culture and money and all these things, and trying to have the most efficient possible city that you can. Let's take a look. In this game, you're trying to build the biggest and best city, and you're going to be doing that using a bunch of tracking paths here on the board. Around the outside of the board, you'll keep track of your money. Here you'll keep track of culture. The person who has the best culture at the end of each era, or at the end of each round, actually is going to attract tourists from other cities, and also at the end of the game you get points for every 2 spots you have in culture. Here, you keep track of your, basically, technology. This is a circular track, and every time you pass this spot here, you're going to upgrade your power facility. Then we have 2 tracks here in the middle. This one here is population, and the one next to it is employment. Now, employment can never pass population. Obviously, you can't have more people working for you than you have people. And you're trying to have them even. As you can see at the end of each era, you're going to lose points based on, you're going to lose a lot of points unless you get both your population and your employment up. And at the end of each era, you'll also lose points if your population and your employment are too far apart, because, well, if you have a bunch of people laying around not working, that's problematic. And then up here, we have your public works track. This is a track where you have libraries and schools and things, and at the end of each era, depending on where you are, it might move you farther on the technology track, or you might lose money if you're too far down, or people might even move out. Each of these tracks has an ending point, which if you go past that ending point, like for example, if your employment continues to pop up, you'll just get 3 points every time, and if your population goes over 20, you'll lose $6 every time. And if you get more money than $60, you will get points every round. Now, each turn of the game, players have kind of this really unique way of picking turn order for round. You'll see here black's going first, then purple, green, blue, and red. Then the next time, when black goes, he gets to pick which spot he goes to. So let's say everyone's down here. Black is going to pay 6 times. Let's say he wants to go 4th. 6 times 2, he pays 12. Purple really wants to go first, so 4 times 3 is 12. Green doesn't care, so green will go last and pay 0. Blue goes second, 2 times 3 is 6. Red will pay $2. So not only does where you go position you for how much you're going to pay next time, purple's going to pay 6 times whatever next time, but also wherever you go will determine how much money you're going to pay, and also you want to go first. Going first or last sometimes is a big deal. You can see there's 3 stacks of tiles here, 1, 2, and 3, and all these tiles are not going to come into play over the course of the game. But some of them are, and they're for the 3 different eras. Each era has 4 rounds, and the rounds are tracked over here in the middle of the technology track. You can see a 1 through 12 round here. Now, at the beginning of each era, you're going to have some tiles that are placed here, and each round you're going to have 6 tiles placed in the 0, and players are going to be taking these and placing them in their town, and the ones that aren't taken will be moved down to where they cost 2 next turn, and more will be brought out. The different color of the tiles just shows what type of tile that is, and you're going to be adding those to your city. This is what players have as a starting city. They have their power plant here, which is a small coal plant, which starts with 4 energy on it. They have their little tourist marker. And then over here, they start with a city hall and a hotel, and then 2 construction markers, which look like street intersections. Now, each of these has different actions after players build a building in their town. And by the way, when you get a building, you simply have to put it next to one of these construction markers, and if there's another color of that type in your town, it has to go next to that color. So for example, if I get this brown tile, I would have to place it here or here, diagonal is adjacent, next to it like that. When all the buildings around one of your construction tiles are built, you can then take that and move that construction tile to a new spot where you can start building next to it. If you can't do one of those things when it's time to build a tile, you have to pay points, which is never really a good thing. Each of these tiles has different things. Some of them have things when they're built. A lot of tiles have, if they're built next to other things, they get points, or they get you money if they're built next to other things, or they always provide it. And there's a lot of symbols on here. The symbols aren't really that confusing, but for your first couple games or not, you're going to be looking in the rule book a long time. There is, I mean, just pages of what each of the buildings do in the game. Now, after players have built buildings, players are going to be sending their energy cubes to different spots. You always have to spend one more energy cube than is shown on a tile. So this tile shows one energy cube. I would have to place 2 of my cubes here to use this tile. I can also place my Taurus marker as a cube, and if you have more culture than someone else, you can steal their culture markers and place them on there. Each player gets a certain number of times they can place things. They're called activations based on their power grant building. So this gives me 1 activation per round. As the game goes by, it gives me 1, and the person with the highest culture gets an extra activation. So you can use 2 buildings. When I use a building, for example, this one here says lose 1 employment to move your technology track 2. Here I can pay 1 culture and get 1 employment. Here I can pay 1 culture and get $7. And there's all sorts of buildings that convert different tracks. But the thing is, each building is never really going to help you out permanently on the thing. Like for example, when you build this one here, I get to move 2 on technology and add 4 people to my thing, but I lose 2 on the public works. So there's always like a negative thing to all these different buildings, but hopefully the positives matter. And as time progresses, and as you get to the 3 buildings, they start really letting you do a lot of things. Like the example here, I can pay 3 culture for 7 points. And there's lots of ways to get lots of points and money at the end of the game. Here I can pay $10 for 1 point. And so players are going to be using these activations, and you're going to need to build more and better power plants as the game goes by. You can see here is an example of a later in the game power plant. This one gives me 2 activations, comes with 3 cubes, and it's worth 6 victory points. And so you're trying to work all this over the 12 rounds of the game. At the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner, and points are going to be a smattering of energy cubes that you haven't spent, where you are on the different tracks, and also the positive and negative points that you've collected over the course of the game. There's another addition to the game you can add, where you can have basically a bunch of bonus tiles. You shuffle these and give everybody a certain number at the beginning of the game, and at certain points during the game you have to put these out as long as you meet the requirements for them, and they can give you points, but you can see they also take away a lot of things. They certainly make the game harder. This game is really beautiful. I love the main board. I love how all these tracks are just, you know, easy to see, and it looks cool. It has a great look to it. The tiles are colorful. The colors are helpful to differentiate between the different tiles. The victory points, the tiles are thick. I mean, it's a well-designed game. My only quibble on the design part would be there's so many different icons. We're talking, there was a game that came out years ago, Race for the Galaxy, which had all these icons. This is very similar. It will take you multiple times to get used to the symbology for this game. Now, that's a really cool thing. The actual building of the city is really neat. It's fun to build the city and have different buildings in your city. Those are things I like about the game, and I also think that it's a very well designed, put together game. However, I don't like it. But I want to be cautious in saying that I don't like this on a personal level for a few things, and you may not find those things as annoying to you. For one thing, this game is tough. I mean, it is really tough from the get-go. I'm not sure in the first era that you can not get negative points. And I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that I feel like I'm constantly struggling in this. You get one thing up, the other thing goes down. You try to get that up, something else goes down. There are games like this out there, and people like that, I guess, that feeling of like, and you know, and I'm assuming being the mayor of a city is very stressful and taxing. And I understand that, but I don't want that job, so why would I want to emulate it in the game? I mean, just from the get-go, picking what order you're going to go in, you spend money. You'll find that money goes out really fast, and that your culture track, if you're not careful, can easily go down. And if you watch any one of these tracks, your other ones are going down, and it can be really tough. Now, by the time the third era, probably halfway through the second era, but maybe not, could be to the third era, that you finally feel like, okay, things are starting to come together. But I never felt like I had enough that I could do. You get one activation for the longest time, unless you have the most culture, and you don't have a lot of cubes. So every action is really tight, and oh, I want to do this, this, and this, and oh, I can only do one thing. Now again, I'm not saying that's a flaw in the game, but I don't like it because I felt stressed. Every time I played this, I felt stressed, and I just didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. Now, another thing I like about the game was you really don't work. The other people don't affect you very much at all. What I build in my city, there's some interaction, but there's not much other than checking to see who has the highest culture, or, oh, you took my tile. I also think it's a little odd that the tiles go up in price when you don't buy them. You would think that they would go down in price, because if no one took the tile the first time, why would I want to pay money to take it the second? I know there's exceptions and people list that, but sometimes it just seems odd that, I don't know. Anyway, so that's really why I'm not a big fan of the game. I love the city building theme. Suburbia is a fantastic game. But what I like about Suburbia is you start and you grow and you watch your city grow, and as your city gets bigger and bigger, it becomes harder to handle, but it's okay, I'm trying to figure it out. Here you start out and you're like, oh, I hope we survive. I have played games with folks who've ended the game with negative points. Now, to be fair, that was their first game, and adding these purple tiles in makes the game even harder. But it's obvious this is definitely a game that you will need to play multiple times to, well, survive, to get better at it. Okay. But I have played the game multiple times, and I'm just not keen on it. It's beautiful. It's a great game, I think, and I know some people are gonna love that sweat pouring off your face type thing that this game brings. But for me, I don't feel the rewards that this game gives me are equal to the work I go through to play it. And that's why I'm not a fan of capitals. Am I recommending it? Well, yeah, I am. Not to people like me who want to just enjoy benefits every turn of the game. That's what I like, and that wasn't here. If you want to crawl your way up, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and work hard and have a reward by winning the game, then you will enjoy the capitals. For me, I want something just a little easier.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Do.